The commitment to the higher is a constant decommitment from consistency. The commitment to any progress is a constant decommitment from consistency. And we are back with another reflection on Daily Vedanta Dog. Today, we've got my co-host. For once in a while, I have a co-host in the room, rarely on camera though. And that's Mr. Wendell, our 12-and-a-half-year-old little dachshund. All right, Wendell. Any reflections you want to cover today? He's practicing Mountain. Little vow of silence. I love it. Well, I will take the reins then on a concept that actually came up. Yeah, and well, I will take the reins. Well, I will take the reins then on a concept that came up in the last episode where Jeff Bezos, in a work setting, was quoting Gandhi. He had changed his mind in an executive meeting, or a decision that had been made in an executive meeting, and changed his mind the next day. A few days later, another executive saw him in the hallway and said, "Man, you changed your mind. Are we on I just want to make sure we're on the same page. We're making the right decision, and we got everybody bought in, and then you changed your mind the next day." And as the story goes, Bezos said, "Look, my commitment is to truth, not to consistency." I remember hearing that and was blown away. My commitment is to truth, not to consistency. I was like, holy shit, that is well said. Years later, I'd realized that he was quoting Gandhi. I'd actually used that quote and tell that story of Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos said, and then I realized years later he was quoting Gandhi. And it's such a profound philosophical approach to have a commitment to the transcendent, to truth. Say transcendent, not just in some spiritual paradigm, but transcendent meaning it is above whatever decision you are making now or whatever information you might have right now. The higher. That might be outside of the data set, the information you have in front of you. The truth nearly always is above what we're perceiving here and now. Absolutely speaking, according to the ancient philosophy of Vedanta, it is the transcendent quality of what we are perceiving here and now, the truth. And a slight distinction from the truth, the East versus the West. West, we usually talk about the truth in terms of linguistic truth. Truth at its core is linguistic. Do you believe what he said is the truth? Are Christ's words the truth or not for you? And that is the question. Truth being linguistic. In the East, truth is experiential. It is not stringing the right words in the right order. The truth is an experience, experiencing that which is, experiencing who you are. It's so not linguistic that even the language about it, this own philosophy will disavow and say, well, this whole philosophy isn't the truth, because the truth is an experience. And even then, in saying the truth is an experience, not to tie people into knots, but technically speaking, this philosophy will also say it's actually not technically an experience, because an experience requires a subject and an object. Realization, enlightenment, liberation is beyond an experience because it is non-dual. There is no subject and object. There is just isness. That is the ultimate, the absolute truth. But back to the relative, to the here now, the life that we live, a story of a boss and a leader and an executive having a conversation where he says, my commitment is to truth, not to consistency. This is such a powerful, in the practical sense, such a powerful notion. Not just to align with truth, but to make sure we're not aligned with consistency. Because how many times in our life Have we said, well, I just got to do that because that's what people expect of me? Oh, I got to kind of get in line. I got to believe what my parents believe or my grandparents believe in. Just because, I don't want to be inconsistent. I don't want to stand out. Oh my God, I do not want to be rejected from my community, my family. Nearly all of our lives, we are committed to consistency. Well, I got to do this as a career because I started 5-6 years ago. I got a degree in this. I got a PhD that took 9 years. So now I need to keep doing this. But the commitment to the higher is a constant decommitment from consistency. The commitment to any progress is a constant decommitment from consistency. You play golf and you always drive it 225 yards. The whole point is to transcend that consistency if you're working on your drive, to get to 235, to get to 250, to break that pattern. If you are a child of divorce or trauma, one of your highest callings will be to break the chains of that for your own children. Every pursuit of progress, of evolution, of self-development is a continual, if we're doing it right, is a continual decommitment from how we did it before. Maybe it's not drastic every day, but it is incremental to, I want to get better at this. I want to break the chains from how I've done it the last 10 years. This prison that we find ourselves in that I talk about on the podcast every once in a while, the prison of what will people think? Most of us live in that prison for our entire lives, dying inside of quiet desperation because we're chained to our commitments to consistency within ourselves, within our lives, within our communities, within our families. What a profound transformation if we can get to a place where we are committed to truth and not to consistency. What does that look like in our practical lives? Well, the same Jeff Bezos, my other favorite quotes of his is, innovators must be willing to be misunderstood. If you want to push the world forward, or you want to push yourself forward, you have to be willing to be misunderstood. And how many of us, when we really ask ourselves, how many of us are willing to be misunderstood by our 5 high school friends that want us to just be like we were in high school? You know that phrase? It's like, you hear it as, it's like the worst thing you can hear from a best friend from high school. You changed. Many in our community, at first blush, do not want us to change because they want predictability from us. But I say at first blush because the same community would relish in our progress, in our development. All right, we got another cameo. Hey, Marley. All right, get your toy. This prison of wanting to be understood at all times. The irony is that same community would love for us to break out of that prison, to be misunderstood for a little while, but then show the way for them to follow. That's what every great lighthouse throughout history has done. Breaking chains, breaking patterns, breaking conventions, showing the way. What is novel, what's driven by an individual that's willing to be misunderstood, becomes a path forward, becomes an evolution for an entire community. Nothing inspires friends or family members or your community at large, maybe not every single person, but at large. Nothing inspires them like your own example of your own development. Not lording it over people, not preaching at them, not judging them, but your own development. Your own actions rendered attractive from a path that you've taken. Our commitment to truth as individuals becomes light for our entire communities. On the other side of a good spell, perhaps, of being misunderstood, people not understanding what you're doing, why you're doing it. on the other side of decommitting from consistency, and on the other side of making a commitment to truth, no matter how it looks, no matter how it makes you look. A commitment to truth for yourself and for every community you are a part of. A price that you might pay, but everyone around you gets to benefit from. Maybe not in the short term, but if you do it right, in the practical and the absolute, in the long term, it is inevitable that everyone gets to benefit from it, including yourself. That is today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.